So Enduro was meant to be this riding focused and less coverage based sport. That was the whole purpose of it, and I think that still exists today. It will always be a highlights focused race. The minute you bring in live broadcast, you restrict everything and you have to change fundamental parts of the sport. I don't think we should ever do that to Enduro. We knew very much that the World Championships was important to the brands, to the teams, to the riders, crucial. The challenge always faces that we actually have to do the work to make that happen. It's easy to say that, people, it's easy to say that you want something, but it takes time to actually deliver it. We are the promoters and broadcasters of the World Cup, the World Series. We don't necessarily need to also, and I don't think it's healthy for us also to deliver all the way to the grassroots. Mountain biking, as I said, hasn't grown exponentially in the last 30 years, and we need to make that happen now.
Hi everyone. My name is Antoine Taillefer and I am a huge fan of mountain biking. I used to race downhill and mega avalanche races while being a journalist for French magazines. I'm now a content creator and consultant in the bike industry, and on En Roue Libre podcast, I had guests like Cédric Garcia, Loïc Bruni, his mechanic Jacques Roure, Olivier Bossard, Johan Barelli, all in French. Today, you're hearing my very first English-speaking episode, and I hope you will enjoy this conversation, even if my French accent and the way I put my sentences might be a bit itchy to your ears. Expect to see more of these podcasts in the future, as the world of mountain biking is full of living legends. I can't wait to discuss with them and share their stories with you. So to all of you who are listening to this, I want to say a big thank you. I wish you have a good time listening to this podcast, and don't forget to subscribe if you like it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my today's guest, Chris Ball. Chris.
Hello.
Hello. How can we keep Enduro alive?
I don't think we have to. I think it lives and breathes on its own. It's a huge beast that hundreds and thousands of people love around the world. That's not I don't think that's a question that we actually have to answer, if I'm honest.
You heard and you're hearing everyone like looking at the sports, let's say struggling to get attention. Also because it's a sport that is really difficult to broadcast. What can we do for helping the sport to be more seen, understanding the challenges of broadcasting, the stages, the recaps and everything? How can we do to get more attention and visibility?
I think we should probably take a couple of steps back from that question before we get into that detail. I think there's often a confusion in some ways, and possibly it's been because of the dominance and the work done with the Enduro World Series, for over 10 years. But Enduro is a discipline. It's a format of racing. It's a lifestyle for many people. It's a type of mountain biking. It's not defined and lives and dies by the Enduro World Series or the Enduro World Cup as it is now. We are the elite professional level racing that sits on the top of this huge pyramid of participation globally. So I think when we talk about how do we grow Enduro or the impacts of the Enduro World Cup on Enduro, I think we need to make sure that they're treated separately. It doesn't need to be one and the same. I'm a huge fan and a huge advocate of events like the Stone King that just happened recently. I was a previous participant, not a very good one, but a loving participant of the Trans Provence and the Pacifico, these huge multi-day Enduro races. That the whole point of Enduro is that it's flexible and it can evolve and it can exist around the world. So I think we need to be careful when we talk, and you ask me questions like that we talk about the Enduro World Cup and not Enduro as its entire thing.
Yeah, okay. So if we want to be more specific about Enduro racing, so how can we do that?
I think it's a great question. I think as everyone has seen over the years, we've pushed for more and more coverage. We've tried a lot of different things. I think mountain biking, even at UCI level, is the kind of the laboratory for cycling. You see huge technical regulations in road. The Tour de France this year, you see everything from helmets to the angle of brake levers, and mountain bike is kept completely open from any real technical regulation. Fun fact, actually, the last technical regulation in mountain bike in the UCI rules were that both wheels had to be the same size. And it was Canyon about 6 or 7 years ago that asked me to help lobby UCI because they were developing the mullet bike to use an Enduro, which then went on to e-bike. So I think, it's a huge innovation platform, which means that we've innovated the racing format and we've worked to then innovate the way we cover it, and how the racing format links to the coverage and vice versa is very important. When the idea of enduro racing at a professional level came about, sort of around 2010, 2011, first met with Fred Glow and Enrico Guala around 2011, 2012. It was to try and make sure that mountain biking still had a beating heart within professional racing. At the time, and I digress, but it's important to understand the context. At the time, I was working at the UCI, managing the Downhill World Cup, and Red Bull were coming in, and we were working very much on how we could broadcast and make a more broadcastable product, for want of an uglier word, of the Downhill World Cup. We wanted to make sure that downhill could be celebrated for all it was and make it TV friendly. But that decouples it from mountain biking and what you and I maybe would do this afternoon. Maybe you, but maybe not me. We have a cross-country race this afternoon, but, in general, on a weekend. So enduro was meant to be this riding focused and less coverage-based sport. That was the whole purpose of it, going back over a decade. And I think that still exists today. We have to make sure that the sport is still valid, is still legitimate, it still uses the technology that the industry are making, that you and I are riding. And then we have to try and cover that in a way that doesn't impact the sport too much. We have seen over the last decade plus that as bikes have evolved, as the riding style has evolved, as we've had a pressure to make the racing closer and tighter and more exciting from a time perspective, and to try and move cameras and logistics and operations, we've seen enduro move more into a sort of almost a shorter format. We changed it to 1 day so we could bring in e-bike predominantly. Because that took another day on the schedule. In year one of DWS, we had 3-day races. We then went to 2 and 1 day races. Now we're on 1 day, and that's okay. So we've played with the format a lot, and that's always been aligned with the technology and the wish of the riders to race more downhill, to race more aggressively, to race for closer times. So we've tried a lot. Mountain bike is innovative, as I said, and I think the most innovative format of racing within it is enduro. We've been everywhere around the world and tried pretty much everything, and I think that needs to continue. I think when we launched this project of the UCI Mountain Bike World Series, it was, and what people often don't realize is how long these things take to develop. It was around 3 years ago now, and since then we've seen a huge impact on the market of e-bike, which didn't necessarily. It was coming, of course, in certain areas, France particularly, Italy, more Central European countries, it was much more prevalent, but globally less so. So we've seen a huge impact on e-bike, which has really been in the enduro space. And then marathon's been impacted by gravel. Gravel racing has really taken the world by storm. So cycling's changing, the sport has to keep changing, and we have to make sure that we're flexible and able to change with it, So I think we need to really look now at, as we really go back to what we originally were talking about in 2011, 2012 with making downhill more televisual, cross-country more televisual. Cross-country had done a lot of that work through the Olympics in the early thousands, building in especially to London, making it shorter and more TV friendly. I think we need to really look again at enduro, and we are, and how we can keep what people love, combine it with the bikes that people ride, on the trails that exist in venues. We don't build these specialist courses that further restrict where we can take it, and work with the riders in the industry as to where it needs to go. So I think it will always be a highlights focused race. The minute you bring in live broadcast, you restrict everything and you have to change fundamental parts of the sport. That's just the nature of the beast. I don't think we should ever do that to enduro. We were talking before this podcast. I'm giving you a long answer to a very short question here, but I guess that's podcasting, right? We talked before about how you a lot of people don't understand the scale of things behind the scenes. It takes about 130 staff here to broadcast that downhill yesterday in Léger. If we were to do that in enduro, it would fundamentally change the sport. It would take us to trails that people wouldn't necessarily want to race on, venues people that maybe wouldn't want to ride at. It would restrict us in terms of the time of the day, everything, absolutely everything would change. And I think the beauty of Enduro is that should never happen, which means we really need to keep it a highlights-focused sport where we see what develops in social media, we see what develops in digital platforms and utilize that to cover what the riders do. And I think that's key. And as I was saying to you before, I actually view all the comments, why is Enduro not live, as a positive. It means people want to see more of it. I would be heartbroken if we just stopped hearing comments about people not wanting to see more. See more is a good problem.
Yeah. So I understand that you want to keep the authenticity of the sport, because if you change it too much due to the broadcasting, people will probably miss the core and the original sport. But also for professional riders and to have a professional sport, you need coverage and you need broadcast, and you need to make some changes. How can you compromise between the two kind of extreme, between the core and making it more visible? Because at some stage you will need to do that, to find the fine tune of core and visible.
I think that's the magic sauce, and ultimately there is, and I think a lot of people wish there was, including myself, but there's no silver bullet. There's no single answer to that. Different venues are different. As I told you, the bike industry, the type of riding styles, everything changes all of the time, and we need to constantly evolve. So the answer to that question today might be different in 6 months' time, or 1 year, or 5 years' time.
Maybe just for next year.
But I think to your point, I think the important word that you used is compromise. I think if we and we will stay true to the sport, we have to keep building the racing to be tight and exciting. So it has to be meaningful. It has to be great racing to take part in, but also to follow. The riders have to be real heroes, and we have to celebrate that using all of our platforms. But we have to focus on the highlights package, and we're looking at how we do that. And I think what a lot of people maybe don't necessarily understand is, even from the days of the Enduro World Series, we're now live on, or not live, we're now hosted on Eurosport, D+, Max. Enduro has a place on the biggest, or one of the world's largest sports media broadcast platforms. That didn't exist a few years ago. Our media team on the ground at Enduro and our event delivery team are over 3 times the size they were a few years ago. The investment that we're making in the sport and the coverage has grown exponentially. I think, again, people want to see more, but we're actually delivering a huge amount already, and we'll continue to do so. So I think, the evolution of the highlights package, how we develop live timing, and actually how we develop the courses, a big open topic just now.
So what will be the contribution of the EDR World Champs in that strategy?
I think that's a great question, and I think it's going to be huge. We were told very clearly, and I was lucky that we'd started this work about 5 years ago with the UCI, that the World Championship status was viewed as crucial by many of the brands and the riders for positioning and legitimacy for their own careers, their own contracts. For us and for myself, it's also very important that Enduro did not remain this kind of outsider to the sport of mountain bike. I'd pushed very, very hard to include Enduro into the Glasgow World Championships last year, because every discipline, every format of cycling was being celebrated together, and Enduro wasn't present. And that was simply just because of the scale and the time frame that these contracts and agreements take place over. And I think for Enduro to be part of the cycling family, which it is, it needs to be at the same level, on every level, as all the other formats. So launching the Enduro World Series back in 2013, we remained very open with the UCI, and have always had a very, very strong relationship. The very welcome appearance of David Lepartian, the current president of the UCI, and around 2018, 2019, allowed us to formalize the agreement with the UCI. And people don't realize that's not that long ago. We also have to think there was a pandemic that happened somewhere in this space as well, which wasn't a very small thing. So 2019, we aligned with the UCI, which brought in anti-doping. It allowed Enduro to form part of the UCI rulebook, which allowed national federations to start creating national championships. We're now working with the confederations to look at European championships and Pan Americans. These huge sporting federations and processes take a very long time. So 2019 was actually a huge step for Enduro without a lot of people necessarily realizing. That then created the platform for us to do what we're doing now. The inclusion of Enduro at World Cup level, so the rebrand from Enduro World Series to Enduro World Cup, aligned Enduro with cross-country, short track, downhill, other formats at World Cup level. That was only last year, we have to remember, less than 2 years ago that happened. And then the final step of complete alignment was the addition of a World Championships. Now, for World Championships, there's agreements with venues, there's processes, there's rights, there's a huge amount behind the scenes that takes a lot of time to work through. As I said, I was pushing very hard for Enduro to be included in Glasgow, and we simply just didn't make it with the time that we had, and the time was years. So we, recently very proudly announced the addition of Enduro's World Championships with the UCI from this year, which is very exciting. You'll see it in the Valais World Championships in Switzerland in 2025, part of an already existing agreement with the UCI in the canton of the Valais. So that's already very, very exciting, and another challenge that we had to work through because it was fitting it within existing structures. But we got there, and it's announced, and it's very exciting.
What can we expect from this event? Can we expect it to be a kind of laboratory for the topics we've discussed before, like visibility, broadcasting? So what can you tell us a bit about the format? Will it remain purely original, or will you make some changes?
We're going to keep it pretty original. In some ways, we're going more back to the roots a little bit. I think, especially with the advent of e-bike, we're really looking at making pedal enduro, traditional enduro, more like it was a celebration of the athlete and the physical hardship, if you like, the achievements that they make. So we're in one of our most famous and popular venues that we ever hosted Enduro, Canazei in Val di Fassa under the beautiful Dolomites, and we're really going to celebrate the sport for what it's always been loved for. The Tutti Frutti Ridgeline, some of the real classics, and we're going to build a fantastic highlights package around that.
How hard could you hear the riders and the fields and the riding field? Because some people, and like a lot of people, were not really understanding why there was a world championship for snowbike and why there was not a world championship for enduro. You told us that this was a long process, so it finally came to this year. What was the contribution of the riders, of the team, of the industry into the happening of this World Champs?
I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that we generally share the same views. We want the sport of mountain biking, so we've talked a lot about enduro today, but the sport of mountain biking to be far larger than it is. It's an incredible sport. It's incredibly diverse. It's just got so many amazing attributes to celebrate, and then we want to grow that and take that to the world. That's what we're here to do. Simply put, that's no different, I think, to any fan or rider or team's wishes for the sport that they love and take part in, and is their profession. We knew very much that the World Championships was important to the brands, to the teams, to the riders, crucial. The challenge always faces that we actually have to do the work to make that happen. It's easy to say that, people... it's easy to say that you want something, but it takes time to actually deliver it. So we've just been working very hard for a number of years to make all of this happen, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah. But knowing that support was there allowed us to continue to push. There's no point for us pushing for something that doesn't have any support, which we knew it had. So
this winter we saw a new World Championship, snowbike. This year we also will see Enduro World Championship. What can we expect as a new discipline to arrive? Like, for example, will urban downhill arrive in World Championships, or what can you tell us about?
You're asking me to look into the crystal ball of the future at UCI. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think, Snowbike was obviously a fun addition. I know that it received a lot of interesting feedback. I actually supported the UCI. We supported it with Eurosport backing, with broadcast. No one else was going to ride a bike in Châtel in February. So the fact that people were racing mountain bikes, I think, is a great thing. Honestly, hands up. Snowbike, I know for the UCI as well, is not just a one format. It's a category, it's a discipline. So where that evolves will be up to the UCI, and it will be interesting to see where it goes. They race around at the Cyclocross World Cup on snow in Val di Sole, So I think that will be a fascinating thing to see what happens. We'll continue to support the UCI there with coverage. We're not promoters or organisers within that space. We just support with some broadcast and media coverage. Other than that, I wouldn't be so sure. I think we're in a good place. Obviously, gravel has been growing massively globally, and has had a World Championships recently added. I don't think there's much to do. I think a large part of our work too is in simplification of the sport that we can control, if you like, the parts that we can control. So I think we have to be careful as cyclists not to continue to make our sport more complex. If we want to keep talking to the fans already engaged, then we can do that. But if we want to grow, we need to make sure our message is clear and simple. And we're working on proposals for regulation changes and the way we can steer across country and downhill and enduro into simple formats that we can deliver to big audiences in a good way, which will support growth of the sport for the athletes and teams as well. So I hope there's not too many more World Championships, but as I said, gravel, e-bike, the change of enduro, snowbike, the sport of cycling constantly evolves. It's one of its strengths. So who knows?
Yeah. And are you hearing, or how do you see those urban downhill races?
I think probably similar to my answer to snowbike. I think people racing bikes, taking it to fans is a great thing. I think Red Bull do a fantastic job. And they're a great partner of ours, with their Cerro Bajo and the different downtown races. Where it lives in the hierarchy of sport, will it ever be a World Cup? It's not maybe something that I would like to see. I think it's too separate from downhill, like we saw here in Léger yesterday. But I think it always has a place. And people will always innovate. Pump track is another example. It's constant.
Talking about downhill now, we've seen a lot of changes recently. What do you think we should still change in downhill? Are you planning on making some of them in the next few years, or is the sport as good as you want it to be in terms of regulation?
Good question. I think there's changes that we would like to see make, and I think we need to be really clear. We can't just make regulation changes. We have to propose everything to UCI, who make the final decisions, and we are in great relationship with UCI on that. I think we have to continue to simplify it. But at its core, you start at the top, you finish at the bottom. It's one person against the clock. It is such a pure form of racing, and I think it can be overly kind of complexified, if that's even a word. It can be made more complex by regulations like protection. For me, those rules exist because there's bigger problems in the architecture of the sport. There's too many racers. Here at World Cup, we had 400 yesterday. We have 400 in the cross country today. We had 400 yesterday in the downhill. We don't have enough hours in the day to actually fit them on the track. But to cancel the juniors to fit, weather windows to be safe. So we have to really try and look at how we can professionalize the elite level sport and make it very clear and simple and engageable to the fan. I think the DNA is perfect. It doesn't need to change. There's always rumors around us wanting to shorten courses and do all these other things. At the same time, we have this paradox of feedback that people want to see more and watch more. We've achieved every round this year a full run coverage in downhill. So yesterday, we didn't even achieve this in Léger last year, but yesterday we achieved a full run coverage broadcast. So unlike where Loic won the World Championships here in Léger, around a minute and a half of his run is not part of history in terms of video coverage, broadcast coverage. Nobody knows what he did to win that day. It's like MotoGP not covering the first 3 corners of the race. It wouldn't happen. When we came in, I said very clearly we need to aim towards full coverage of the race. The riders deserve it, the fans deserve it. We as broadcasters believe it has to happen. And we achieved it yesterday. We achieved it in Poland. We achieved it in Leogang. We achieved it in Fort William. That means that we need to maybe look at course design and length because it has an impact on time, run of the day. We had 5-minute intervals between the riders yesterday, which means that just for the last 10, there's 50 minutes of TV time, of time for the spectators. So we have a lot to really look at in the minutiae, but as a core basis for the sport, it's in a fantastically beautiful place.
How can you put that into perspective and maybe compromise with the fact that you need new riders? You need riders to be like junior and to grow into the sport and become elite one day, because not everyone is Jackson Goldstone able to arrive and smash the sport.
That's what makes people like Jackson so special, right? They're unique.
Yeah, but you probably don't have many of them, of course. So how can you make the riders become elite riders? Like, are you planning on like a secondary series, like, I don't know, GP2, where riders will be able to grow into the sport?
I think a lot of the answers exist in global sport. I think sometimes, I honestly believe, and sometimes in mountain bike, we're a bit too blinkered in what we currently do and what needs to remain the same, because it always has. The World Cup, the sport is over 30 years old and it's not grown a huge amount. And I think that's partly for that reason. You don't have to look too far left and right to see Europa Cup in ski, NORAM. You see Premiership football with the multiple leagues below. You see, F1, F2, whatever. Every sport has a pathway. This is not unique, and this is not like a new idea. So I firmly believe we have to do that. When I say we, I mean we as a community. I don't necessarily mean we as Warner Brothers Discovery. We are the promoters and broadcasters of the World Cup, the World Series. We don't necessarily need to also, and I don't think it's healthy for us also to deliver all the way to the grassroots. I think federations, clubs, teams, riders, local promoters, maybe more European-based promoters, continental promoters should step into that fold. So yes, 100% agree. We're working with UCI and other entities to try and make that happen. Where we can support, we will, but I think it's not always our job, or it's not necessarily healthy for it to be our job. We need to grow this together, not just us on our own. But no, I completely agree. I mean, there's two ways of looking at sporting development. You can look at building a skyscraper, which is very skinny and very tall, but could also fall over quite easily. And you look at a pyramid, and I'm talking to you on, I don't know, maybe the largest French podcast, but you only have to look at what the French Federation and Manu Hubert has done with the French program to see that all the way from Nico Vullio and Caro through to Cedric through to yesterday and Omri, there's always been a huge basis of French riders and a very strong domestic program that's led to these constant successes at the top in all racing formats, enduro, cross country, and downhill. That needs to happen globally. I think the French Federation, I think the French model is really incredible, and it's because it focuses a lot on the base, a big base. So that's what the sport has to do.
But a few years ago, they were like Maxis Cup, IXS. They were like great formats and venues where you could get actually points to enter into the World Cup circuit. So are you like working with entities to develop that, and should we see something coming next year?
I hope so. I believe so. Yeah. So the short answer is yes, we're working with those entities. We're working with the UEC, with UCI, with different federations around the world. So yes, we're working on that. When it's confirmed, it will be announced. So hopefully you'll see the news soon, if not next year, 26, but I believe, and we're pushing for 25. The changes we want to make at World Cup, we talked about, with slightly less riders and more focus on the top, has to have that step happen. You can't do one without the other, so they have to happen together. So it's in our interests very much to make it happen sooner rather than later. I think the other interesting point that you could look at there is, why did the Maxis Cup or the Access Cup exist previously and less so now? And I think it's a large part of the reason that the easy, if you like, access to World Cup has maybe diminished the value of those second tier or continental level competitions. And that causes us the problems like we spoke about with 400 riders in the downhill here. So I think you can look at the restriction of elite sport as bad, or you can look at it as actually pushing the pathway to be created. Yeah. And I think the openness of the World Cup on one hand is fantastic because it's very community driven. It's very grassroots. It's very privateer focused, but it erodes that existence of anything below, which is not good for the sport in this sort of health and globalization, and it's not necessarily good for the value of the professional cyclists at the top. So I think we should view these changes as they come in, because they have to come in, whether it's us or somebody else, as positive.
And we've seen already some examples with Monster Energy in the US.
Exactly.
So yeah, should we expect that to come in Europe?
I hope so. If I have anything to do with it, yes.
Excellent.
That's my motivation.
We've seen recently some groups of riders, like in Slopestyle, for example, being concerned about the reward of their sport and not feeling considered or like financially respected. What is your view on the elite riders considering this aspect of financial reward in World Cup? What can we expect in terms of progress with that, and how can we reward the riders that takes so much risk and they risk their lives?
Well, I think that's a good question. Firstly, I think protest doesn't necessarily work. I've been there. I've protested in the past as a younger man. You have to affect change together. So I think there's always at least three parties involved. There's us as the promoter and the broadcaster. There's the rider and there's the teams. Everyone needs each other equally. We need the riders to race and be heroes and celebrate that. They need teams to support them, and we all need broadcast to make this actually happen and be valuable. So we're a trifecta, if you like, of very important stakeholders that need to work together. So I think the protest in Slopestyle, whilst I think it made a good, it made a topic very important, I don't think it's necessarily the right way to really affect change. It's my true belief, having experienced many different things over my career. I think you also have to look at the value of the rider growing in a realistic timeline. We're here to grow this thing. If we don't, then we failed. And we've already seen huge growth from year 1 to year 2, but we still have a long way to go. Mountain biking, as I said, hasn't grown exponentially in the last 30 years, and we need to make that happen now. So the riders have to be with us and see that value in the coming years. It doesn't happen overnight, but it takes all three parties to work together. We need the value to increase. We want the value to increase because we want to take it to more fans and see more engagement. We believe we can do that. We believe this sport's worth taking to the world because it's so exciting. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. And once you get the larger audience, the riders will naturally and the teams will naturally benefit if they work with us and work with the fans to do that. So everything from attendance to press conferences to being more engaging with the fans will increase rider value. It will increase the sports value. Therefore, it increases all of our values. So we have to work together on that one, and it will happen. If we're all successful, then it will happen naturally.
My last question, how can we make the teams and the riders being heard by you and all the entities? Is there any process that we should put in place to make sure that all the interests are respected?
I don't think there's a process that we should put in place because I think we already have put it in place. I think if you read the comments, you might not believe that, but in actual fact, we invested a huge amount of time last year in year 1 of engaging. We have a really strong relationship now with especially with the downhill riders. Actually, Rory, our sport director in downhill, does a great job of rider meetings every race now to look at safety and sporting concerns. We also have a wider feedback group, likewise with the team managers, and we engage very closely with the brands. We can't forget that we're 18 months into a huge project, and a large part of what I talked about and what you're hearing in the news around less teams or less riders or whatever, it actually will help us to communicate more. There's over 150 teams registered to the UCI for Mountain Bike World Cup. There's over 950 riders registered to teams. That's a lot of voices to hear, and we try and hear them all. We can't. It's physically impossible to hear them all, but we do our best, and we've worked to put in structures to try and have the teams and the brands and the riders feedback to us in an actual way that we can work through and efficiently compute. Honestly, there's a high volume of feedback, shall I say. But no, I think we're in a good place. The engagement from the start of this year in Brazil has completely changed from last year from the riders and the teams, and we'll continue to work in that way because, as I said, we can't do it without all parties.
Any last word for our audience that they should hear from you?
I think it's important that we, Eurosport and Warner Brothers Discovery consider themselves the home of cycling. They're deeply passionate as a company, as a corporate entity behind cycling. Myself, pretty much our entire staff team are either cyclists or cycling fans. There's a huge amount of passion on this side of the podcast here. We want this to grow, and we believe we can grow it. There's never any doubt in my mind that we're doing things for the right reason, even the hard decisions. Like yesterday in the junior cancellation, incredibly hard decision, but made for the right reasons. And I think it's important that we're seen and very much supported and really a positive force on the sport. It's the most exciting investment in the sport that's happened for decades. And I think we have an opportunity to make mountain biking huge. It's already big. It's already fantastic. I think it can be even bigger and even better, honestly, as a fan, as a cyclist. And we work every day, often too many hours in a day to make that happen. And that's important.
Thank you, Chris, for your time and participation to En Roue Libre.
Thanks for having me.
And see you in a bit.
See you. Thank you.